Since the last video, I updated my level a little bit, so I have a slightly more interesting layout. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about the camera that we can use to follow our player around, because we did add one before, but I didn't explain it very well, so I'm going to go over it again. First of all, if you followed one of the first videos, we have this camera 2D already added into our scene. So this purple box that we can see around the player is the view of my camera. So if I move that around, this is where the camera is going to be positioned, and that's what we're going to see when we run the game. So the problem right now when I run the game is I can only see this amount of the screen, and when my player runs to the side to go elsewhere in the level, it doesn't follow, so we can't see what's happening. Now what I'm going to do first of all is I'm actually going to delete the camera that I had already added, just so I can go over the whole thing again. You can keep your camera if you like, but I'm just going to delete for the purpose of showing. Now one thing I'll mention first is this mini rectangle that we can see here that our level is inside of. This is actually what we call our viewport for the scene. So by default, if we run the game without a camera, then we're going to see everything inside that rectangle. So that's our view there, which matches to what's inside that rectangle. It's the size of the window that we end up getting, and that dictates what we can see. It's our viewport. But we want to add a camera to actually follow our player around this game. So to go over the camera again, up here on level, right click it and do add child node. Look for camera and choose camera 2D and then create. Now with the camera added, you can see up here it's this purple box again. So when we drag that around at the moment, this is too big. So with the camera selected, go over to the inspector on the right and set a zoom level. I will start by saying zoom level of 4. Actually, I think I'll make that 3. Now what we want to do is drag that over the center of our player for now. Now, if we run that, then our view is now specifically over at the top of the player there, but the camera still does not follow us. Now, really easy to fix this. If we just click and drag the camera onto the player over here, then the camera now belongs to the player. So if we just make sure that we position the camera directly on top of the player, where we want it to follow him, then automatically now the camera will follow the player around the level when they move. But we'll also add on position smoothing here. So within the camera, make sure you click enable the position smoothing. And then when we run the game, the camera is going to follow us as we move around the level. One other thing we can sort out just now is at the moment, if we fall off the map, the camera continues to follow the player as they continue falling. And we haven't got any code at the moment that resets our player's position when we fall off the world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change something to set the limit of our camera so that the camera doesn't keep following the player forever. So with the camera selected, if we come over to the inspector on the right and go to limit, we can set a bottom limit for the camera of which it will follow. So if we grab this ruler tool up here, and if we click and drag from the top of our scene, we can see that the bottom here, this bottom part, is roughly 650 pixels or so. So if I start with that, if I set this to value for bottom to 650 and we run the game, let's see what happens when we fall. Okay, our camera stops there. That's not too bad. But it'll be up to you, and depending on your world, what value you give to the bottom. Just so long as it's a value, that means that your camera stops at roughly the bottom of your level, so it doesn't follow the player forever. And that is it for the camera.